Well, hey, I'm Rebecca Folks, happy homemaker, mom to 4 busy kids, and online entrepreneur. I've spent over a decade in this space working with high-achieving, high-performing women who carry the weight of juggling all the things. After many ups and downs of creating balance between home life, work life, and a million kid activities too, I learned how to slow down to actually accomplish more of the important things. I believe in all the to-doing, there are deep spaces in women's hearts that are sacred to us. Conviction in our identity, hospitality around our tables, and that quiet strength that only comes when we lay our head down at night, confident we're doing a good job where it matters most. Consider this a melting pot of wisdom learned over the years. From homemaking and wellness to influencing and marketing, we're diving into the topics that have created more peace, more joy, and in the end, more margin in my business and my life. Welcome to Wide Open Spaces. Well, hey, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we have my longest, bestest friend, Lisa Fischer, on the podcast. Not only is she delightful and hilarious, but she has such a depth of knowledge on hormones. And if you are like me, you know that they are influencing your life, but maybe you're not sure how or why. And I think she just gives such color to what's going on. What can we do to help to support happy, healthy hormones? What are we doing that might be sabotaging our hormones? And she does all this in a way that you want to lean in. You want to keep listening. You want to figure out how you can do this better. And it's all just in a fun way. So y'all are going to love Lisa Fischer. I can't wait for y'all to hear from her today. Well, welcome, Lisa. I'm so excited that you're on here today. I was telling her the other day, I was thinking about a Bible study I did years ago. It was a Beth Moore Bible study on the book of Esther, and the subtitle was, "It's Tough Being a Woman." And as people kind of threw out some different reasons it was tough being a woman, you know, their mother-in-law or just body image issues. Really, as she flipped through, the resounding response was hormones. Hormones are what makes it so tough to be a woman. And as soon as you figure them out, you're a little bit older and things change, or your weight changes or something, and everything impacts everything. And so as I've been listening and talking to Lisa lately, she has been just dropping wisdom bomb after the next on just the complexities of hormones and the misconceptions, and something that's impacting every bit of us. And then feeling like, oh, there's actually a lot of that I don't even fully understand. And so I thought it would be so great to have a conversation and just kind of shed some light on that, on how we can feel better and not do things that are affecting our hormones negatively, and maybe some things that could impact them positively. So Lisa, tell us some things. What made you so interested in hormones?
Because they wrecked my life too at 40, and that's what it does. If you hate your husband 1 week out of the month, it's your hormones. It's not your husband. If you want to move to a different island to get away from those people that tug on your pants every day and go, "Mama, I want food." If it's just a few days out of the month, it's not your lot in life. It is your hormones. But the first thing people always think of, Rebecca, is, well, yeah, we just have 3 sex hormones. We know we have testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen. Oh, my friends, there are about 50 hormones that are chemical messengers. And so they're the ones that are responsible that everything works from head to toe. Melatonin isn't just something you take at night for sleep. It's a hormone. Well, you can mitigate your own melatonin so that you sleep better at night by getting morning sunlight as the sun rises. You get evening sunset as the sun sets, because the Bible says we're fearfully and wonderfully made. God made us this way to work with nature, not pills, not right. Supplements. If you take them, fine. But there are so many things you can do on your own so that you are upright, feeling great. And sleep is one thing. Sleep is kind of the football field of our life. If that's not in order, in fact, some people are now saying, Rebecca, it's more important than nutrition is how much sleep you get. So the sleep you get affects the other hormones. So if we're talking about these 50 hormone chemical messengers, we know melatonin's the one that helps us sleep. people think vitamin D is a vitamin. It's not. It synthesizes as a hormone. And if you keep your cholesterol low, which you should not, which is another conversation, then your vitamin D is low. If your vitamin D is low, guess what? You die of disease. You get fat. So you see, they work together. So the ones we talk about in my space, I'm a health coach and I'm an intermittent fasting guru. Like, it's what changed my life in 2017. You know my story. And that is, those are the hormones that then drive us to eat and to stop eating. And that's where people get stumped, because they think that pan of brownies is calling my name. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's calling your neighbor's name, because if you get your hormones right, it won't even know your name.
So interesting. So you said that hormones are chemical messengers. So tell me what you mean by that. That
they fire.
What does that mean?
They fire and tell the body it's time to release this. The hypothalamus is here in the brain, and it's kind of your epicenter for metabolism and so many things. So we protect our hypothalamus by doing things like getting morning sunlight, by making sure our vitamin D is good, and some other things, so that epicenter fires especially the ones that control weight, because the progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen, the sex hormones, they also control the way, and thyroid's a hormone. And I love me some thyroid. So thyroid is the gas pedal to the body. And if it's not working right, then your sex hormones are compromised, and then your hunger and satiety hormones are compromised. So these chemical messengers fire, and they're the ones that say, all right, time to show up. Ghrelin is the hormone, Ghrelin. When your stomach growls, when you're hungry, you feel ghrelin. Well, once you get your other hormones regulated, mine doesn't fire that much. I haven't eaten since yesterday, at dinner. I won't eat today till 1:00, because my ghrelin has been regulated, because I have introduced a time-restricted eating into my life for 6 or 7 years now.
Okay, so that's kind of what I was wondering when you said the chemical messengers. So if your melatonin is off balance, it's imbalanced, could that also have an effect on something in your testosterone or your estrogen? Like, they're all, the hip bone's connected to the knee bone. They're all connected. Okay.
Absolutely.
So
that's why it's so important. Yes. To as we age, so we know in our 20s and 30s, we know in our 20s, that's when both men and women, their sex hormones are at the highest. So that means those chemical messengers are making us feel our best, because the thing testosterone does, people always think, well, it's sex drive. Well, it's a lot more than that. It's agency and ambition and drive to do things. So agency and ambition are your, that's why men made God these warriors to lead our families with high testosterone, because that's how they get their feet on the ground in the morning, and they want to defend their families, and they want to go hunt and gather. Well, we need it too as women, because we need that ability to protect our flock, right? So it's the same thing with the other hormones. They all have specific characteristics that make us feel our best as we age, because of things like environment. That means the chemicals you put, the deodorant you use, the perfumes you use, the stress in your life. I mean, we can't control the fact that maybe we have an ailing parent, or we have a child in rebellion, or we have a husband who doesn't have a job. Well, those things then affect your hormones. If you're sitting in an office all day and you're in front of a blue light screen of a device, you just then lowered your melatonin and you're not sleeping well. So it all works in tandem for you to feel your best. I'm 60 years old. I'm 100. To some people listening, she's 100 years old. I feel like I did in my 20s, and I'm the same size I was in my 20s. My skin is vibrant, not because of anything righteous I've done, but my hormones are in balance. So that's why it's so important to get your hormones in check.
Than anyone I've met. Your energy is off the charts. I mean, she just bebops around one place to the next. Yes. Yeah. Super interesting. So one thing you talk about a lot is the morning sunlight and just getting outside, the impact that has on how you're going to sleep that night. Tell me, why is that?
Well, so in the morning, and because of God's design of even the sunlight, he knew that in 2023 we would have homes and offices that we were stuck inside, but he never designed us to stay here. That's why there are tribal communities in Africa that don't get sick. Because what? They're out in the sunlight in the morning as the sun comes up. So those sun's rays are different than the sunset's rays. The morning rays are different than the nighttime rays. The morning rays also produce cortisol. You need cortisol. That is your cup of coffee. Well, as you know, I don't drink caffeine. Why? Because I get morning sunlight that gives me morning cortisol, that gives me the energy to get my day going before I'm trying to get into the habit, not looking at my device, just making sure my kids are okay because I'm a mama. Looking at my device, there's no blood on my device of a kid needing me or a husband, or somebody calling you, right? So I get outside, get the morning sunlight, and then it also releases the nighttime melatonin. So when you get it at about 7 a.m., tonight at 9 or 10, I got mine at about 7:05 till about 7:25, sat outside. You can have your quiet time. You can walk your dog. So in that time, I try to do about 15 to 20 minutes of sunlight in the morning. It gave me my morning cortisol. That's why I'm silly energetic right now at 10:30 in the morning. And then it produced that it's going to fire the melatonin tonight about 9 or 10 o'clock. Then tonight, as the sun sets, I'll run outside. I'll look up at the sun. I just glance. You don't stare at the sun because I'm telling my irises hey, melatonin, I need you now to also come out, and it's telling your cortisol to slow down. So people who get that second wind at night, that means they have adrenal imbalance, adrenal dysfunction, and it means they're making cortisol at night when we need to be making it in the morning. Cortisol is a fight or flight hormone, but it's also the one that gives you that morning push.
So interesting. And I think I was thinking of it like it's so interesting that it's in reverse. That in the morning you're already starting your melatonin process. I don't know what you would call that. It's
your melatonin production. Your sleep is started the night. What you're going to get tonight began this morning when you got out of bed. I start building my evening hormones, my nighttime hormones, the minute I wake up. You do too. So I've already worked on mine. Now, if I do have some iced tea or something, I took my supplements a minute ago and just because I made some iced tea. But I'm done with caffeine for today because I don't want to compromise any of that melatonin production later. And then same thing with sugar, carbs, processed foods, that also manipulates your hormones. And then the other thing another clue to this is hormone imbalance also comes when people are hungry throughout or hangry through the day. They can't get the satiety. They have trouble getting full at a meal. Those are also hormones. And that's why Jason Fung, the medical father of intermittent fasting, says you're hormonally wired to eat and to stop eating. So that's another thing people run into and go, but wait a minute. Why I'm hungry? I have to go back and get seconds, or I have to eat between meals. I have to eat 19 times a day. No, you don't. Your hormones are out of balance.
Right. That's what's so interesting is that person, they might need to because they've gotten themselves in such an imbalanced state that your body is saying, no, you do. And then you're saying there's actually things that you can do to change the wiring of your cravings or your brain to where you're working with your body instead of against it for whatever health goals or desires that you have. There's actually things. And so what would be some things that you're doing that are perhaps, inhibiting you from being able to make better decisions or to keeping your hormones unbalanced?
Okay, that's a great question.
What are things that we're all doing every day?
So eating all day messes up your hormones. We're now seeing that projected, or what they said was science in the 80s. We now know that there's money behind some of the things that are told to us all the time. That's why you don't
eating
need
6 meals a day. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yes,
you're talking, the snacks and the keep your metabolism firing.
We realized that was wrong, that kept your insulin high. Insulin is your chief metabolic hormone. Thyroid hormone is too, but insulin is a fat storing hormone. So every time you even put a flavored strawberry water on your tongue, you released insulin. So you told your body to store fat. I'm trying to tell my body to burn fat. So I prevent putting any flavor, anything on my tongue until it's time to open my eating window, which today will be like from 1 to 5 probably. And I do that so that right now my body's looking, because we need energy, right, throughout the day. Clearly I have it. I haven't eaten anything, so I don't have any glucose to push out. So my body right now is looking for fat to burn for fuel. And found a little here on my waist, found a little under my arms, found a little on your ham hock, your thigh. So that's all part of what happens with the way that these hormones communicate. You want to keep your insulin down. Insulin is different from glucose. Insulin is released by the pancreas. It gets a little detailed, but people say, my insulin's fine because I had my sugar tested. No, those are two different readings. You can ask your provider for a fasting insulin. And if your fasting insulin level is above 6, you're probably insulin resistant. If you're insulin resistant, you're hungry all day, you have skin tags, you are at risk for type 2 diabetes, dementia, and cancer. My risk for type 2 diabetes, dementia, and cancer is an egg. It's a 0 because I have the lowest fasting insulin my provider's ever seen.
Very interesting. Okay, so
a lot of words.
Or one of the things that we're doing would be that eating, we're not fasting is essentially what you're saying.
That's right. Yeah.
Because if you're eating all day, then that would be so if people wanted to start that and they go, oh, well, you just said you're only eating 1 to 5. Yeah, what would it look like if someone, because that sounds scary.
Right.
When they
I have my PhD.
First say that.
Right. That's right. I have my PhD in fasting.
So for those of us in kindergarten, what would you say to those people?
I would say, this is a question I get asked often. I would say start with a fasting and feasting window of 16 and 8. I would fast for 16 hours. You're asleep for 8 of them, right? And 3 or 4 of them are before you go to bed at night, because you need about a 3-hour window before you go to bed, also for melatonin production. So you don't need to keep your last meal close to bedtime, because you have to rest and digest. Again, fearfully and wonderfully made. That's the way God designed us. So you got 3 or 4 hours.
Okay, say that again, what you're saying, that yes, that you want to wait, you want your last meal, if you're talking about something that'll affect your hormones, people could be doing.
That's
one
right.
would be you're eating too close to the time you go to bed.
That's right. Not because of burning calories, but because of the rest and digest and your melatonin production.
Interesting.
And because food digestion is a big deal. And we were not designed to digest all day. A GI doc told me that years ago, because God healed me of a condition, a swallowing disorder. And he's the one who said he saw my case was so good after a few years of fasting. And I said, why do you think he said, you have the best case I've ever seen of this rare swallowing disorder called achalasia. And he said, because we were never designed to digest all day. So digestion is a big deal. It's running a marathon for your innards, right? So we need to give that a break. And we need a break between the time we put our fork down to the time we put our head down on our pillow. 3 hours is a good goal. So look, you just got 3 hours of fasting before you went to bed because you're not eating. Then you sleep your 8 hours. Now I'm a journalist, so I can't do math, but I think that's 11 hours, right? Yeah.
I think that's 11.
And then
I feel good about
you wake up the next morning at 6 a.m. You just have to wait till 11 o'clock to eat. People, you can do this. This is not act like there's the best sale at Macy's you've ever seen. And that the only way you can get in is if you haven't eaten in 16 hours. You would do it.
You would do it. Definitely at Nordstrom. Definitely at Nordstrom.
Yeah, or Nordstrom.
Macy's,
right.
I don't know, but for sure at Nordstrom.
A regional store near you.
Okay, so that's super helpful. Yes. And
so that's 16 hours.
It's a lot more doable than it sounds.
Yes.
I will say, I mean, when Lisa came to my house in 2017 or whatever it was and told me she was fasting, and I went, oh, good. You found something new, and I'll talk to you. Great. Let me tell you what you like next. Tell me what you like next. And I'll catch you on the next one. And, 6 months later, she was still talking about it. And so then I started, maybe it was 2016 when I started fasting. Yeah. What year did you start doing it?
Well, wait. I started, November 24th, 2017. Yeah. 2017.
Oh, it was
I came to your
17. Okay.
house and it was your birthday. Your birthday, December. I came and brought your
Yes.
gifts. So it'd been about 3 weeks or so. I'd been fasting.
Okay.
And you go, Lisa Fischer, what you're just going to do this for a month and be done with it. And I went, no, I like the way I felt. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
But then, I saw your body changing. You were having health changes.
Yeah, for sure.
You were learning more about it. And I think just the excitement and the enthusiasm around, look at what I'm learning and everything that's associated with this. And I think, Lisa, I think you talk pretty openly about different autoimmune things that you've run into in your health. And so when she was seeing success with those, and so finally I jumped on the train, and it absolutely was about a month or 6 weeks of a learning curve and having an adjustment. I'll just say an adjustment.
That's
especially
exactly
I was doing CrossFit in the mornings. And so I was trying to figure out how to,
I remember that.
You're trying to work. I was trying to lift heavy, but my body wasn't fat adapted yet, but you really do acclimate, and it just becomes the way that you do life and the way that you, so it really, it makes a big difference. So, it is
one thing
doable.
I need to say is, so this insulin production, every time, even if you don't come at me with your stevia, you still release insulin likely. Now, we don't know body by body, but we're just assuming, because your body doesn't read labels. Your body sees something sweet's coming in.
Yes.
Your body thinks it's a strawberry cake. It's sweet because stevia is 300 times sweeter than sugar, right? Or whatever the number is.
Or just
whatever
a strawberry. Something that's not even
right. That's right.
Anything.
But your body sees that coming in. So your body releases insulin, again, because we're fearfully and wonderfully made, to usher the glucose to the cells. So those of you who your abdomen is bigger than you want it to be, you have skin tags, you have thick scars, you have type 2 diabetes, or you have high blood sugar, or you have high blood pressure, those are all related to your insulin production, not anything else. I know your grandma had it, but we now know with DNA, Dr. Mark Hyman says that genetics loads the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. So your environment is your choice
Praise
to
God.
eat.
Yeah.
Exactly. That we can run from that. So we're not,
instead of just settle into, I'm predestined for illness or for all these health defects. No, you can own that.
That's right.
Praise God.
It's also telling your mind, communicating with your body, that you're not having any part of it. So that's why I have 6 autoimmune conditions that most of them have been reversed. I still have vitiligo on my skin, and that's why I'm eating a meat-based diet right now, carnivore diet, so I can try to repigment my skin. This is strictly cosmetic. There's no discomfort from it other than people saying, have you been burned in a fire? I'm like, nope, haven't been burned in a fire.
But then you get to meet a new friend. Yeah, you get to start a new conversation.
And we're best friends by the time it's all over. But all these things have all the conditions. 90% of today's diseases are related to insulin. The PCOS is related to high insulin. Yes, polycystic ovarian syndrome, because then you're making too many androgens in your ovaries. It gets very technical, but it makes sense once you see it. You hit yourself on the head and go, doing, why didn't I know this? So if you can mitigate your insulin, and that's every time you eat, and lower it and start in 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of feasting, I would knock out the snacks. We now know that we don't need the snacks. But big food, big pharma wants you to eat the snacks so that you can keep buying the Nabisco treats. And big pharma wants you to keep eating the snacks, so you have to take their pills. People, you don't need Mounjaro, Wegovy, or Ozempic to lose weight. You just need to lower your insulin.
I think it's also just freeing, and it makes me feel like capable when I hear you, because so many of the things I think that are out there, I think I put it in a post that I kind of deleted it. I was like, that feels a little aggressive, but I'm like, it can turn into an idolatry of all the health things that are out there.
Absolutely.
Of stay away from this, make sure this doesn't have this ingredient in it. And and it can feel, like a battle you're not going to win. I know one of my friends the other day or a few months ago, I can't keep track of those things, but she said, we need to be careful in what we're putting on our bodies that really linen, I think, was the mecca of clean clothes, and there's an energy in our fabrics.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I give up. I give
Right.
up. If I can't, I mean, just put on a cute boutique shirt and worried that I'm, messing with the toxicity levels. And then if my water doesn't have this electrolyte, or it's overwhelming. And so I think what you're saying is just by something that feels so controllable, which is just this. The only thing is just having the accountability and the ownership over, I'm going to eat when it's time to eat, and I'm not going to eat
and
when
I'm going to stop.
Don't need. I'm going to stop.
That's it.
And
That's it.
you don't have to worry about math. You don't have to worry about I think that the more progressive that you get, the more that you begin to learn about nutrition. Well, then I think when I first started, my dad, I'm pretty sure lost like 30 pounds doing fasting the first few months or something incredible. Yeah. And during his fasting window, he was literally eating ice cream and buckets of chicken. Like, I mean, that's what he was eating in his feasting window. Yeah. That's right. It would be time to eat. And he was like, I'm going, hog wild. And then as he, but he was able to, just by adjusting that. But as you get into okay, what am I actually putting? Then you start thinking your nutrition, like, what am I putting in my body? And you get choosier with that.
Absolutely.
And then you start to feel so much differently. You're sleeping better. You're not having the headaches. Skin conditions are changing. All the autoimmune things that you didn't even know were abnormal because they were so normal to you that you just, I have this thing. Oh, I have this, but you don't have to have that thing.
You don't have to have
and you want to. You don't have to have that thing. And I think that's people that even just have I'm far from a guru, but I definitely am a health enthusiast. And I love thinking, what are the ways that you can, live your best free health, feeling good life? And this has been such a big one. And the impact on your hormones too, I think is incredible, because you think about even just in a month, your feelings and your mood, how whether, you've got a week in there where you're full of energy and ideas and bright lights, and then there's the complete opposite side, and then there's the not, like all that. And that's just in 1 month where you're basically the same age and the same weight as the month before. But then as we're getting older, or you're having children, or you're postpartum, or all the different things, how that impacts it. And I just think that's so interesting. So,
well, here's a verse that I love.
Fasting. No, tell me.
It's 1 Corinthians 6:12. It says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful for me, but I won't be controlled by anything. I won't be mastered by them. So that it can go with what you eat. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. So your dad, you remember in the beginning, I was eating Wendy's hamburgers in my eating window. I'd never eaten a Wendy's hamburger, but I was like, I can because I went
to Mexico Chiquito. Yes. Cheese dip and salsa every day for me. Yeah. It was my opener every day.
That's right. But now I don't have the desire for that because I've grown up. And so all things are lawful for me, but I won't be mastered by anything. So it helps you then.
Like a modern way to say that is almost just because you can't, just because you could doesn't mean you should.
Right. But you have to come to that. Everyone listening has to come to that on his or her own of going, okay, I mean, try this for, I'm saying, give me 4 weeks. I take that advice for 4 weeks, start at 16 and 8. And then, bump it to 17 and 7, because your body then will start realizing, oh my gosh, I went 18 hours and I didn't die. Or I went 19 hours. Or then in a month or two, you'll go, I didn't get to eat all of Monday and I didn't die because I truly got busy. Then you will start understanding the person who says, I got so busy, I forgot to eat. I remember hearing that going, you are a liar. You did not forget to eat. No, I really did.
We are not the same. Yeah.
No, right. And yesterday, because you and I were talking, doing some things, I had some my own podcast. It was 3:00 or so before I ate, and I probably ate till about 7:30. But I just got busy. I drank water the whole time, just because I'm not going to be mastered by food, a clock telling me when to eat, when not to eat. And that means even there are days, Rebecca, if I have family in, if my kids are home, we might have brunch here at my house. We might eat, at 10:30 or at 11. because it's called life. Live your life
yes.
with gusto and live it
I'm
and
so
not
glad
be
you said
ashamed.
that. Yes.
Yeah, it's just live your life. You'll just see there
Start
will be
back
nutrition.
tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. That's as easy as it is.
One last thing I think that also I think's interesting is kind of your take or what you've kind of learned about how some of the options for fitness can affect our cortisol for women.
Oh, gosh.
And how just the effect that even just some short walks a day that those can help you. I mean, I just didn't know if you wanted to say something about that.
Everyone listening needs to do a 10-minute walk after they eat. So if you eat 3 times a day, 10 minutes, twice a day, that's it. You are not, if you're over 40, you're not training for the Senior Olympics. There are a few of you who are, but they may not be listening to this.
They're probably not on this podcast.
Then you've got to stop with the constant cardio. I've got the science. It has blown my mind. So cortisol is that fight or flight hormone, but it's also one that if you look down and you can see an abdomen, you have too much cortisol and you have estrogen imbalance. For a man, you may have too much gluten in your diet. Or a testosterone imbalance. Same thing with women. Too much gluten or inflammatory foods will give you an abdomen. By reducing, because cortisol remembers your fight or flight, so we don't want to call it into play. So a 10-minute walk will not really produce cortisol. It burns, it takes your insulin and
is it aiding in digestion? Is it everything?
It pushes your glucose to the cells. It gets you, the only sensitivity I believe in is insulin sensitivity. So it gets you insulin sensitive. And that's what we're trying to work toward. 92% of the population, 92% of the people listening now are insulin resistant and have other metabolic issues. So walk at least twice a day after meals, 10 minutes. That's it. Lift heavy weights, because we want to build testosterone. We all need testosterone. And it also helps women as they age with osteopenia, osteoporosis, other things with your bones. But that's it. I mean, I'm saying I give you permission to stop with all the this is what I'll tell you. There are a lot of fat people in the treadmill at your gym because they're chasing the wrong rabbit.
Well, there's that.
I know on that.
And then my last question, and because this is literally something I think about with fasting and with just so many of the voices and the science out there, as a woman that's fasting, how do you, and I know you're, especially for you doing a meat-based diet, how do you kind of regulate or kind of gauge how much protein that you're eating? Are you doing anything with macros?
I don't do math. I don't do math, but women over 40 need to make their goal 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight. I weigh 150 pounds. It's impossible for me to get to 150. I mean, I'm trying. So I'm adding cottage cheese to meals because I'm trying to build bones, muscle. I'm trying to help my hormones communicate better. So if you can, so they say 0.75 to 1 gram.
Especially in a 5-hour.
It's very hard.
If I'm eating 8 hours a day, then I can hit 130 to 150.
Oh, you can?
But it's when I go down to it's eating cottage cheese, lots of eggs, protein shakes.
Eggs. That's right. I get full so easily. So another hormone we hadn't talked about, when you get full, you produce leptin. So leptin is, you can even measure if you're leptin resistant. You can have that test from your doctor. You can ask your doctor for a leptin lab value. But there are other two hormones.
That is one of the very interesting things with fasting, that you're almost like frustrated because then you get full so fast. So when it's finally time to eat, you're like, well, dang it. I just hardly even ate. I thought I was going to pig out on something, and you're really not. You're really not.
So that does compromise my protein intake. So I'm having to work harder. So today I'm going to lunch with some friends. We're all carnivores. So we're getting steak and shrimp. And I told them, I said, I talk big. I'm going to order the porterhouse, but I won't be able to eat it all. I'll bring it home later. And if I want something to eat before about 5 or 6, I'll eat that and probably a boiled egg. or maybe some cottage cheese. Because when you eat fat and protein, you have higher satiety. That's scientific.
Right.
Cholecystokinin is produced, and that's only produced if you have fat and protein. If you have a low fat diet or low protein diet, that's why you're hungry all day. So I get full
Because when you're
so
saying
easily.
satiety, you mean you're feeling fuller, faster, and like
Satiated,
for longer period of time. Yes, satiated.
Yes, you don't need any more food. I truly don't need any more food. So I eat and then I'm done. I've removed gluten just as an autoimmune mitigator right now. And
Right.
so I really am just eating fat and protein when I eat, and I get full easily. So, and that's how I never worry about my weight. I never get on a scale. I mean, maybe once a month I
And
see
you like
a
what
number
you're
on a
eating,
scale.
and you
And
feel
I
good.
love it. I know.
And you're happy.
Life is great. Right. And my kids are out
And you
of the
don't want to
nest.
kill your husband.
Right. And right. Because my hormones are regulated, and I'm an empty nester with grandkids. This is a great time of my life.
And so, you're saying at 60, you feel like your best ever. I mean, who doesn't want to hear that? Yeah,
I know.
I love that.
Isn't that great? I know.
Well, Lisa, where can people, if they're like, I mean, I could sit here and obviously talk to you about this for hours and hours. If they wanted to hear more from you, how would they find you?
Well, I ain't hiding. I'm there. So my website is lisafischersaid.com, because when people say, why did you start fasting? You'll say, because Lisa Fischer said. And
That's
my
right.
podcast is the Lisa Fischer Said podcast. Oh, and then somebody says, why did you start bioidentical hormone replacement? Because Lisa Fischer said. So my podcast is the Lisa Fischer Said podcast. My Instagram handle is Lisa Fischer Said. My Twitter handle is Lisa Fischer Said. My website,
You're making
all
it
the
easy
things
for us.
Yes, that's right.
And another thing that you did to make it easy for us, we're going to put it in the show notes, is you kind of created a guide on just those essential hormones that just to kind of let you know, this is what's creating this, like, what melatonin's doing, what leptin's doing, what the peptides are. Anyway, so I think that was very helpful. So thank you for sharing that. We will put that,
my pleasure.
Just a kind of cheat sheet in the show notes. And I just appreciate this candid conversation that felt like, I mean, it was just an easy thing to talk about, an easy way to know how we can feel our best.
We've been friends a long time too. So you know everything about me. I know your authenticity. You know mine. You would call BS on me if I weren't living up to the life I say I am.
Well, yeah.
So
and I know these things, I mean, I care about things that actually produce a result in our lives.
Yeah.
And caring about these things, I mean, it's foundational. You can't care about your kids or your husband or your kid's science project or whatever it is. If you don't feel good, then all of a sudden you start going,
that's right.
I don't care.
I felt bad for years.
And you can't love on people. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
I felt bad for years and didn't know what was wrong. And it was my thyroid. I was perimenopausal. If you're over 35, you need to start looking at bioidentical hormone replacement therapy for progesterone, because progesterone is nature's sedative, and that's the one that lets you sleep through the night. If you're waking up at 3 a.m., that is a warning sign. It's also could be adrenal. So which is another hormone. I know. Blah, blah, blah.
I'm going to
Lisa.
bite my tongue from asking 6 more questions. So
I
appreciate you. And thank you for this. And I'm sure we'll have to continue the conversation soon.
Okay. Love you. Mean it.
Love you. Mean it. You just finished another episode of Wide Open Spaces. My hope is always that you felt encouraged as you listened. And if you found this valuable, will you share it with a friend today? Tag me if you do. I always love seeing your favorite takeaways. I'm so glad you were here, and I'll see you back next week. Same time, same place. See you then.